talking about War and Peace. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back. Today, we are talking about my review of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. It's a big one. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like. I'm going to talk about my experience reading it. I actually am very glad that I got the edition that I got, just because the words are a readable size, like really easy to follow along. So why did I read War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy? Because this is not a book that I would just be scrolling down and you know what? Yeah, let me go ahead and read War and Peace. So let me tell y'all why I read it in the first place. I used to work with this person that recommended this book specifically to me. I was a reader, he was a reader, and he said, I think you really enjoy it. And I was like, why? Why do you think I'd enjoy that? And I kind of was on the fence about whether I wanted to read it or not. Then about a couple of weeks later, I went into Half Price Books and I saw this beautiful leather-bound edition. And I was like, it's meant to be. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's a sign. So I got it. And it took me a few months. It sat on my shelf for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And when I finally got to it, I said, you know what? I'm going to just start it on the first of the month, and I'm going to try to finish it within that month. Try to focus on it. I got some free time this month. Let's see what can happen. I want to see why he said I might like this book, 1. And 2, I want to see, people love this book. What is in these pages that make people love it so? I want to see. So that's what I did. This book focuses on Napoleon's invasion in 1812. It really spans the decades around it, starting in early 1800s to 1820s, 1830-ish. And yeah, it is, if you want a quick bite-sized chunk of what this book is about, War and Peace is about history, love, relationships, the meaning of it all. It's about growth. It's about loss. It's about development, duty, free will versus fate. Yeah, that's what I would say. If I had to sum that up real quick, that's what I would say that this book is about. Sometimes you read a book and the characters are paper thin, thinner than an 8.5 by 11. They're just cookie cutter and they just so predictable, and they don't have any development. That is not this book. These characters, I feel what I enjoyed the most about this is 2 things that I really enjoyed about it. One of them is how developed the characters were, how much they grow, how you get to see them over time expand, how they change because humans change, how real they felt. They did not feel like characters in a book. These characters felt like they're a part of history. Actually, this book does contain a lot of historical figures, and these characters, the fictional characters, felt real, those historical figures. It was just so much. You might start off not liking a character, and by the end of the book, you like them. You get to understand and know them and grow with them. They change their point of view. They really grow up into this other person, and it's so cool. You get to feel like you're meeting these people. I felt reading this, I felt like I was watching a documentary, but if they fictionalized a documentary. That's what it felt like a war docu-series, but with a little bit of fiction sprinkled in there. So I enjoyed that. These characters so much. And speaking of characters, this book has about 500 or 600 plus characters. Tolstoy names every single character the way Like, you know everybody's family tree, but not all those people are relevant. So even though there are about 500 or 600 characters, it really only focuses on 3 main characters. So you have Pierre. So Pierre is the illegitimate son of the count, and he's like fighting for his inheritance. You see Pierre grow like so much throughout this book. Then you have Prince Andre. He leaves his family to fight in the war against Napoleon. And then you have Natasha, who is this beautiful woman that's coming of age. And with all of these characters, they're all growing, like I said. They all face their own struggles. You get to know them very, very well, their family. You get to see how their stories kind of cross or intersect. That's cool. The love things that's going on with that is pretty interesting. Again, I told you, I felt like I was watching almost a docu-series. If you can mix a docu-series about, like a war docu-series and a soap opera, I feel like that would be War and Peace, because you have the portion that's set on a battlefield in war, and it's very much like historical, it's very dense. But then you also have like what's going on the home front. You have the social things and the drama. Who's in love with who? Who's marrying who? Who did this? These people dying. These people like... And so I feel like, again, if you can mix a docuseries, a historical war docuseries with a soap opera, and you get to see different episodes of each running parallel, that would be War and Peace. This book, Tolstoy, I've never read another Leo Tolstoy book, so I can't say that this is the author's writing style in general. I assume it is from a quick Google search, but this book is very, very, very detailed. Like, he writes very, very detailed things. The first 200 or so, between 200 and 300 pages of this book was so slow. It was an uphill battle. And not because it was bad. Like, you can tell right away he's a good writer. But it was just like, do you need to tell us for 10 pages about like the shape of these people's faces? I don't know where we're going with this, but I'm glad that I stuck with it, because it all makes sense in the end. It's like, and I was telling my husband this, reading this book is like watching Bob Ross paint a picture. You start off and you like, it's abstract, and you know that it's coming to a point where it's gonna be something great that's gonna shock you at the end. Well, I say Bob Ross, but you can take any artist. You know it's gonna get to a point where it's great in the end, but at the beginning it's just like paint thrown on the thing, and you like, I don't know what this is. But then you realize, oh, that's a tree and it's a river. Like, that's cool. So that's kind of the way I looked at this book, where I'm like, how is this relevant? We don't care about these people. But then it gets to a point where you see and understand why it's relevant. And that was pretty cool to me. So I told you as 2 things I really, really like about this book. One of them was how well the characters were written. And my second favorite thing about this book is, going in, I didn't expect it to be as heavy on philosophy as it was, but it was like a welcome surprise. It was a lot of conversation about free will versus fate. It was a lot of conversation about like freedom of choice versus outside influence. It was a lot of conversation about what your purpose is in life and where you fall into that purpose and your contribution to the world. It was a lot of conversation about your loyalty to the land, what that means, doesn't matter. And just like, what's the meaning of it all? What's the point of it all? And I guess when you're thinking about a war novel, I don't know, is this considered a war novel? It's about war and it's about peace. So it makes sense that it would have those philosophical elements to it. But I didn't think that going in. I honestly don't know what I thought going in. What I went in thinking was, why do people like this book so much? And why do people think I would like this book? So I didn't even think about like what it might entail, but it was a welcome surprise too. And it's very quotable. It's had a lot of good quotes. I feel like most classic books do. But it's a translated work. It's a Russian book, and it's written very much like that. It's definitely a book of its time period. Like I said, it was written in the 1800s, and it reads like that. So as far as like Russian works go, it was composed like that, hefty at places, heavy-handed. Which leads me to my next point. Something I didn't really like about this book. My main issue, it was very, very, very repetitive at times. Like, I was like, sir, we know, we get it. Like, it was some points where if he would cut out everything that he like had to repeatedly try to put into your brain, this probably would be cut. Like, you take a fifth of this book out. It was so much of it. So then I stepped back and I thought, why is he like being so repetitive on these things? And I start seeing a theme. It's him putting his own like philosophy into it almost. So you can kind of see reading it what he believes about those philosophical debates, what he thinks, because it's just repeated in different ways at different points if you kind of track the different patterns. So that was interesting after the fact, but while you're reading it, it's like I get it. I don't really want you to persuade me about this topic. I have my view. I do want you to spark debate, but I didn't want him to like just come out and be like, yeah, look, this is the meaning of life. And does the loyalty to the land matter? Let me tell you. But it's not as overt. It is subtle, but you know that you're being like persuaded to think one way or the other. So take that how you will. So yeah, like I said, this book has a lot of characters and you get to see the story through the lens of said characters. So you get to see the perspective of the royalty. You get to see the perspective of the war leaders, the actual soldiers, the bystanders, the servants, the poor people, which they call peasants, everybody in between. You get to see everybody's perspective, which makes for a really interesting read, because in a lot of books that I read, if somebody else's perspective is brought up, it's pretty vague, it's pretty short and brief, because that's not the point of the book, you know. They really shone light on other people's perspective, which I thought was good. Again, all of this can kind of spark debates. This would be a really good book to read if you had a book club that was interested in reading it, because I feel like so many people would get something different from it. I kind of wish I was reading this like in a group, because I would have liked to bounce ideas off of other people. But if you have the opportunity to read this for other people, I would say do that, because you'll be able to kind of talk back and forth about it, get to a point where you can kind of see when you see characters shifting and changing. Y'all can talk about that. You'll be tracking different characters at different times. So I just think it's an interesting book to read in a group setting if you have that opportunity. Okay, and then here's a shocker. I don't know why I was shocked about this. Again, I just went in. I knew what War and Peace was. It's always being referenced. Never read it. But I was kind of shocked to hear about like Freemasonry in this. I don't know why. Maybe that always make my ears perk up. I don't know, but it is a part of this book somewhat. It's not like a main point. But you know, when you're reading something and something piques your interest, that's kind of what happened with that. So it does reference Freemasonry. It has some things about it in it. It's not heavy-handed, but it was enough to make me like take a note about it, because I was kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I never read stuff that reference Freemasonry, so it was interesting to see it in here. But yeah, that is my thoughts on War and Peace. And let me end this video by answering this question that I've been asked a few times on Instagram. Should you read War and Peace by Tolstoy? And my answer is you should try. I'm not going to say you should read it, but it's worth opening it up and seeing if you have interest in reading it. And again, be mindful that those first couple hundred pages, they slow. So be in a spot where maybe you can read this at the same time you're reading a more fast-paced book to kind of get that instant gratification, because this is not instant gratification. You got to work for this. You're going to have to get invested. It took me a fifth of the book to get invested in this. So just know that going in. But I do think you should try. If you're watching this video and you ain't clicked off yet, then you probably really should try to read it. You don't ever have to read the book. Like, it's not mandatory to read, but I feel like I got something from it. And I feel like when it comes up, when the topic of discussion comes up and the topic is War and Peace, I got stuff to say now. I read it. It was rewarding. I feel accomplished somewhat. And it's a book that a lot of people know. So the chances of it coming up in like bigger settings is kind of high. Like, nobody is going to be talking about a lot of these books on my shelves outside of the book community. But people going to be talking about this. So I'll be able to actually like join the conversation, say what I think about it. And they're like, oh, wow, you're so well read. But yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts. If you're thinking about reading it, just check it out and see. It's an experience. It's not instant gratification. Like I said, you got to work for it. But to me, it was worth it. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people say that it's like their favorite book of all time. I can see why. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to head on out. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. And I'll see you in the next one.